philosophy is called as the trusted stable model, and this is really my own experience of what I have seen when I have dealt with projects. So structure and style, so when you look at stakeholders, I think understanding the structure of the organization, or the depending on how complex your project is, becomes the first part of the whole game, which means that who are the key players, what is their interest, what is the power that they hold. So, in our rush to work on our own solution or our own deliverables, we really don't put this proper structure in place. And I'll talk about that as we go along. And I'm just giving you an overview of how the journey will look like for us today. So first is structure, and there is a way to really map the structure also in terms of who is, even in the sponsors that we are talking about, there could be some internal relationships between the sponsors, and there could be some people who have got high power, but they may not have high interest in the project that you're dealing with, and there are valid reasons for that. If we don't understand the structure, then we may miss out on putting our effort in the right direction. And if those people are ignored in some form, that can create a lot of delays in your project. And when I'm saying that, don't misunderstand that there's any stakeholder who is deliberately trying to destroy your project. That's not the point. But if they are not satisfied with whatever is their expectation, there could be a delay in the response from them, and that delay could impact your project. So understanding the structure of whatever you're working on is very important, and every project will have their own structure. So when I was working in Wipro, if I was working in a particular geography or a particular domain, every client would have a different style of working. So the structure comes very first thing. And you can see the stable is basically an acronym. So S is like structure and style. Now, when I say style, I think many of you must be familiar with DISC, which is one of the most popular way to know the style of people. So today I'm going to cover DISC a little bit so that you know the style of your stakeholder. So if there is a stakeholder who is, say, assuming, say C style, you have to respond to the C style in a very different way versus the way you would, respond to I style versus a D style or versus an S style. And we also have our own style. So, there could be a very big mismatch between your style and the stakeholder style. So we will look at that. The second is, since now I have got a chance to many a time meet a lot of stakeholders and kind of listen to what their concerns are. They say that, many a times there is not enough update, when we really need it. And sometimes when we pull up the people and ask them to update, they update so much that when there is no need also they'll update. So time and tide is basically the timing of the update and the tide of the update. Tide is like our low tide, high tide. So when there is a real need of an issue that you're dealing with, you go in high tide, do too much of update to the stakeholder. But if things are going well, don't just bombard them with information, because remember that stakeholders are very senior people who have got so many things to handle, and your update should not really bother them. So time and tide is the thinking around when do I update and how much do I update. Yeah. So first is structure and style. Second is time and tide. Yeah. Third is many a times, I keep hearing from stakeholders is that I think they have not really told us the whole condition in which they are going to operate, which means that they have not articulated enough and they have not acknowledged whether we have got that. Yeah. So if we don't articulate whatever we are expecting from the stakeholder or the overall game of the particular project that we are doing, and get an acknowledgement from them that is that all right from their side. So many times we make an assumption that maybe what worked with me in a different program will work me in the next program. So a reminder to us that I should articulate and get the acknowledgement is another important element with the stakeholder. And then bold and brief, which means that there will be times when you have to be bold about not being always saying yes to whatever the customer or the other party is asking. So in front of the stakeholders, are you bold enough to take a stand? So many a times, if you're not bold enough, you may still agree to do, but eventually the project will suffer and the stakeholder will eventually even know. So are you bold enough to take a stand in front of them? And when you're bold, don't talk about like too many stories to the stakeholders, because remember, these are all senior people and you want to really use your time wisely with them. So be very brief when you're really doing that, and we'll talk about how to be brief. So structure, style, time and tide, articulate, get their acknowledgement, and be bold only when it is required and brief when you're communicating. And finally, if you really look at the statistics and the survey of stakeholders, and if you ask them that, would you like to work with the team again, and you would see that the survey response is not as favorable. There are not many stakeholders who really love working with the same team for the next project. They have said that we have not had a great experience working with them. So how do I leave a legacy where every stakeholder want us to be their team? So how do you leave a legacy with them? So the trusted stable is, trust is the foundation, which you're seeing below, and then stable is an acronym, which is S for structure, style, T for time, tide, A for articulate, acknowledge, B for bold and brief, and LE is for leave a legacy. Yes. And the stable is also, on a very side note, it is like the stable that we have for horses, and horses are one of the most faithful and loyal animal that are people use. So we can also relate to that stable. Yeah.